If you could smell like one bad thing for the rest of your life, what would it be and why?
Candy.
A skunk.
Socks.
What is happening?
Man, I was very excited to do this podcast. That answer just went so many different directions. No, let's not get into that. Well, let's get into it.
You know, I went with a safe one.
Skunk.
The skunk.
That's
because,
not safe.
No, because have you ever smelled a skunk?
No, but
Have you?
Have you?
No.
No. So then it's a surprise.
Okay,
So-
but if it's
So
like
I
it's
don't
known
know.
to
I don't know
smell
how bad it could be. So maybe it's bearable because I've never smelled it before.
Mine's
But
also
socks-
safe too. Like
Socks is gross, bro.
you don't. Some people might like the smell of the
Have you ever
socks.
ate socks before? Like the socks, hold on, the jelly beans.
Yeah, I mean, we all ate them, right?
Yeah.
It's just gross.
But like,
That was like really bad stuff, bro.
but that's relative.
I
to the
said
creator.
candy because candy is bad, right?
Oh my god.
Candy is bad
Cheated.
for you.
Cheated.
So
You said candy?
yeah, because like candy is bad for you,
Wrong.
and
Wrong.
so
Wrong. You lose. Actually, this every
cheated.
time
so
we
I
ask
win
these
because
que-
now I'm gonna be smelling like candy.
You cheated.
Actually, every time we ask these questions, we've been like passing. But once you like completely fail to answer the question the correct way, you lose. You're wrong. You're kicked out of the podcast.
I didn't. I gave a really
the one and
smart
only condition
answer.
we have on this podcast to stay on as a co-host is answer the question
I did answer the
with
question
respect. You
With
disrespected
respect,
the
you
question.
disrespected the
I
question.
did
You
not-
disrespected the question.
Actually, I thought about it in a deeper way.
Amber.
You guys didn't even think
Amber,
about.
the board of directors has spoken.
Directors.
Okay, honestly, the board of directors need to get off their high horse when I say that.
You're not even on the horse. I don't know what you're talking about.
If you don't shut up.
Welcome everybody to another exciting episode of Strange Flavors.
Welcome back.
What? What happened?
I feel like I'm actually doing like one of those Pakistani drama shows.
Welcome.
Welcome back to another very exciting. Stay tuned
Stay tuned.
for this very good, excellent, mind-blowing, fantastic, wonderful episode of Strange Flavors.
Yay.
Brought to you by the Alif Theory.
Oh
My name is Frost.
My name is Shimandar.
Shamander, yo, that's
My
hype.
name is Amber.
Yo, hold up, Shamander. Let's go back to that. real
Oh
quick.
my god.
The entire I'm naming my
He just
son
came back from
Shamander.
Pakistan.
That's
and
like
now he-
Shamir, king of all oceans.
No, he's gonna
Because
name
Samander
his
is
kid that.
ocean in
Oh,
Urdu.
it is.
I didn't even think about that.
So Shamander is like conqueror of. You're like Poseidon, the Desi Poseidon. Shamander. Think about it. My name is Shamander, Greek god, Pakistani god. I'm Pakistani
Bro.
god of oceans. Guys, thank you for. I don't know why I always say tuning in because nobody's tuning these days. They are subscribed. They are clicking in. Thank you for clicking in. Thank you for swiping up in. Some people are swiping in.
Or
So thank you for swiping into
pressing in,
another
tapping in.
episode of
Tapping in.
Strange
Tapping
Flavors.
in. I like that. Thank you for tapping in.
Or asking Siri to play us.
Yeah.
Or Alexa.
Or Alexa.
We're
Google.
we're on Instagram and Twitter and YouTube, and we recently had a contest there. So make sure you're following us there. We're Strange Flavors on everything. You can look us up and we show up because we got that clout now.
Oh, snap.
So
Clout.
so subscribe to us, like us, and follow us on all those things. And the contest, which we announced on our Instagram, but it was on YouTube, was that you leave a comment, giving feedback on one of the subjects that we talked about during our Strange Exchange, and we put it in a random name generator, comment selector thing, and the algorithm came out.
The metrics.
The metrics show that the winner is. Can I get a drum roll? The winner is. Actually, we ran out of hats. There's no
Oh
way.
my
Just
God.
kidding. The winner is Muhammad Ahmed.
Woo! Good job,
Congrats.
Muhammad Ahmed.
Congrats.
Muhammad, and thank you for
Muhammad.
that comment about you weighed in on Kim Kardashian, and that was great feedback.
What a powerful name.
What, Kim Kardashian?
No.
Oh,
Oh.
no,
Muhammad
Kim
Ahmed.
Kardashian. Oh, Shamander.
No.
Shamander. Yeah, but congrats on that hat. Make sure you email us, and we will ship it to you for free, no cost at all. Thank you. We got some shows coming up, people.
Yay.
So make sure to come out to those. They're going to be super exciting. Later this week, actually, we are performing at Towson University right around in Baltimore.
Oh, snap.
So that's on
Baltimore.
March 31st. Actually, that morning, you might catch us in or around ICNA convention, which is happening in Baltimore. And later on, you can catch our show at Towson. So get those tickets and come out and see us. April 3rd, we're going to University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. So if you're in that area, come out, say what's up, enjoy a nice, lovely show. April 13th, University of Maryland, College Park. It's also going to be a lovely show.
Swag.
This one is very lovely too. Always lots of love from UMD. And April 19th, we are going to UMBC, also in the Baltimore area. So people, come out, have some fun with us, kick it.
Swag.
Especially if you're in Karachi. Speaking of,
Karachi.
the man that sang that line, the famous lyric, you, Shamandar, were actually kicking it in the Karachi and all over Pakistan. You went like everywhere recently.
Yeah.
First of all, welcome back. It's good to hear your snaily
We
voice.
missed
I'm
you
glad
so
to be
much.
back, and I
How was
missed you
the-
guys too.
how was
I
the
missed
march?
all the viewers, and the march was very successful.
Okay.
A lot of followers came out through this time. I think last time I did a march, no one came through, so it was just me.
Wow.
But
Aw.
This is a movement. So
The
international, there has been more
international
success.
movement, yeah.
So Snailies United?
Snailies United. I think we need more
Snail for
support.
our lives.
Support nationally.
Okay.
We need more support for that. So follow my GoFundMe. It's linked in the description of the Snail March, and we can snail march.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I think everybody is really dying to know about your bro. Okay, so reproductive system, digestive system. I think everybody was dying to know about your
Why you gotta
digestive
do
system.
that?
How is that? Is it still functional after taking the trip and having all these wonderful foreign spices and liquids and solids going through your
Continue.
It's just, I don't know, like
intestines?
I've never visited the bathroom that much.
Like
In
how many
2
times a
weeks,
day do you think you're going?
Probably like 7 or 8.
Did you plan your day around it?
Wow.
I had to plan. Yeah, I guess so. Like I had to have to make sure there was a toilet, like a good toilet nearby,
Okay.
wherever we were going,
You were
or that we
were
were.
you squatting too?
So I was at the airport, and there's these toilets on the floor, right? It's just holes on the floor.
Right.
That you're supposed to squat.
There
and
you're supposed to squat
do your
in.
business.
And I was at the airport, and I was wearing my jeans and shoes.
Oh man.
So that's the wrong idea, and
Because you have to take it all
because
off.
you have to take it all off
Wait, why do you have to take it all off?
because
Otherwise you're gonna go in your pants.
you're gonna pee in your
No, 'cause you
you're
just-
gonna pee in your pants.
No,
even
you
if you
don't.
half take it, yeah,
Wait,
you're gonna pee on your pants
no.
if you half take it.
Amber, you don't know the system is different for the male species.
I can demonstrate it
you'd
right
be-
now,
Okay, well,
but you're gonna hit your pants like if you squat.
but
even if you half
especially
take
for
it.
guys, I feel like it'd be like easier to not piss in your pants.
That the society has been made so that you have to wear chappals, which is sandals, and you have to wear very easily take offable
the parachute pants.
Okay.
And so
So just slip off.
when
do
I
you
got
guys
to
take
the
off your pants to go to the bathroom?
when I got to the
Pakistan?
stall,
When you squat,
when I got to the
You
st-
take him off. I'm sorry.
you have
have
to
to.
because look,
What?
I got there, right?
It's the first time I'm hearing
I
this.
got there, right? And I was like, all right, I'm so excited because I'm excited to try it out. So I pull it half down.
Shamir. I vlogged that too.
No, I pull it half down and I realize this is not going to work out. And the floor was so dirty that I cannot take off my shoes. And there were Chucks, so they're like tightly, like it's going to be hard and everything. So I'm like, all right, I have an hour and a half to get to Karachi to Lahore. And that's how long the flight was. So I was like, all right, I'll just hold it and do it in the airplane. So then I go in the airplane, right? And
There's a hole in the ground on the airplane.
no. And so then the back bathroom was blocked because there was a lady, she was like giving out drinks and whatnot. And so I asked the hostess if there was a restroom in the front. These people don't know what restroom is. So she said they say washroom. And so restroom is a totally different concept to them,
Okay.
even though I mean washroom. And so I'm like, is there a restroom in the front? And she says, no, we don't have restrooms at all.
She's thinking it's like a resting room.
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
smoke some cigs.
And so I'm like, what? My mind's blown. Like I thought there was a bathroom in there because every airplane has a bathroom, but she said there's no restroom. So I was like, okay, maybe there's no restrooms in this airplane
She's
at all.
messing with. That's like stupid.
No,
for a
she
hostess
really
to
did
know.
not know. what restroom is.
Like you're flying on you're a hostess
Bro.
on an international flight. You don't know what a restroom
It wasn't
is.
international. He was flying from Lahore to
Yeah.
Karachi.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's
So I was like, okay, maybe these 1 hour flights don't have bathrooms. And so like
So you held
I
it?
held it. And as soon as I got off,
Boy.
the Lahore airport had nice toilets. So I was like,
Karachi
thank
airport?
you. Karachi airport did not. That was where the hole were. But
Dang.
Lahore airport had the toilet. So I did
Dude.
my business, and that was not fun either, but it happened, and I'm glad it was over. And yes.
Did you adjust finally, or?
I'm still adjusting mentally, man. There's
Oh, okay.
just the whole society and everything. Is
What was the first thing that you like were thankful to have back when you came back to America?
fully functioning like shower and toiletries.
Were you doing like
and-
bucket work? You were like
Yeah, I was
scooping
doing bucket
water
work,
and pouring it on
and
your
sometimes like the water.
Slow?
I forgot what the heater thing is called, but
Geezer?
yeah, that, and then that wasn't working, so it'd be really cold water, and
Oh,
it'd come
yeah.
out from like one little tube, like drips of water just coming down. So like I'd have to wash my whole body, and it took like an hour just to clean from like one drip coming down.
Yeah, you have to do the bucket and just pour it over your head.
So I'm just like, oh,
All right, we're getting into too much of the the bad things, but
The
like, what was? I'm
technicals.
sure, like, was it a good experience for you to finally go back after a long time?
definitely.
What was like the greatest thing that like you, or like unexpected thing that you know really found surreal, or?
I think it's the whole like classical history in Lahore and stuff. That was like really awesome. I didn't even
It's like
know.
the Lahore Fort and like,
Yeah, the Lahore Fort and the old mosques and stuff like that. And then Murray was like a movie. It was
Aw.
like all
Yeah.
mountains and stuff like that. And we were on top of the mountains looking at nice views. And there was a nice road from Lahore to Murray. And it was just very beautiful, scenic, like typical stuff that'd be on your iPhone, like wallpapers and stuff like that. It was just really dope and fascinating.
Like, what was your favorite thing?
Like each of these different cities, there was like different things, you know. I think Karachi was like the many different walks of life that were there. Like you've had Punjabis, you had this and that, and just so many different people all in one. And it's a huge city, like so many people packed. And the fact that I mean, it's kind of like bad and good, but the traffic, like how traffic is held, no one follows the laws or anything. But the fact that people can get to play A to B and like everyone just understands each other, but they're still yelling at each other. And the fact that the society is functioning still, like if that happened here, like we would not function at all.
Right.
But over there, like everyone's yelling at each other, driving through, like getting through, you know, little
Did the
cracks and
traffic
stuff.
give you anxiety?
Dude, over
Yeah.
here, if you even honk at somebody, their entire day is ruined.
Yeah.
They tell all their coworkers about it.
Yeah.
Like, Nancy, you would not believe what happened to me. You know, on the way here today, I was just like, this lady was driving slow, so I just like went around her. And we met up at a stoplight. You know, that's the worst when you meet at a stoplight. She's honking. And I look over. She's like, pull your window down. Pull your window down. And I'm just like looking at her. I was like, yo, chill. It's okay.
People are making music with the honks. They're like,
But in Pakistan, it's like, if you don't honk,
yeah, you can't
like,
Yeah.
you're not
survive.
going to get through.
Yeah, you can't get anywhere.
Yeah. In Kashmir, you can't see past the corner, so you have to honk every time you go to a corner,
Oh,
which is
that
it's a
sucks.
mountain, so you're constantly going. So as you're driving, you're constantly honking.
Yeah.
So overall, do you think that Pakistan was just like similar to what you thought it was going to be, or was it completely different?
It was similar to what I thought it would be, but as an older person and someone who's very analytical, I like overanalyzed a lot of things and like how sociological structures worked and whatnot. As a kid, I couldn't, you know, perceive that, but how people function and how people are perceiving life, I think that was different from what I was kind of expecting.
Okay.
And somebody who is going to analyze that community a lot further is our guest today. She is an artist who also uses her experience in mental health to advocate for
South Asian woman, mental health community, all these things, all the words, combine them in one. That is Ghonva Ghauri.
She's here to share her perspective and experiences with us today and tell us what she hopes for in the future. So everybody, please welcome Ghonva. Let's start with these glasses. You've got the red, pink actually. You've got the
10%.
Pinkish red.
10% red glasses, iconic on Snapchat, in
Are
real
they
life
really?
now. I mean, I use them. Does anybody else?
I
They're
don't.
great.
I haven't been on Snapchat in a few months. I actually don't know that there's a filter with
Oh,
these
rip
same.
Snapchat.
So
Honestly, what they did with Rihanna.
so how does that affect your mood?
Okay, so red tinted glasses have been known to like reduce migraines. It's a thing, and like I have a bad habit of working straight for too many hours on whatever millions of things I'm doing, and I forget to eat and drink, so this reduces my migraines, first of all. And second of all, you know the whole like what's the saying, like rose tinted,
Roses are red.
no,
Violets
like
are blue.
like wait, and I no, it's okay. So
These Snapchat
basically,
glasses are too cool for you.
Ooh.
thank
Bars.
you. So basically, it like everything's warm. Do you guys understand like color spectrum and stuff? Y'all are
Even everything's warm. Oh, like in your
like
eyes.
warm, yeah.
Everything's
Like
warm.
everything's warmer. Like when you guys were talking about colors earlier, in my head I was like, everything seems really nice to me. I don't know what they're talking about. 'cause
Yeah,
I'm
but that's
so
like,
used
but
to-
isn't that like, because when everything is like blue, then you're more like relaxed.
not necessarily. Warm colors evoke more like happiness and like and a lot of like cool colors, like a lot
Oh,
of
okay.
yellows and stuff will and greens, like harsh greens, and induce migraines and are actually not really great for like certain mental states.
So you don't feel more angry with them on.
Yeah, I'm not I don't have short temper anyways, but when I get mad I get really mad, but like getting me there, it's like takes a lot. But no, I just feel like everything's just like calm. I'll like take them off and realize like how cold, like visually how cold the space is that I'm in. I'm a
So you can't live
painter.
without
I
it.
I just got them like a week and a half
Have
or
you
two
tried
ago,
other
but-
tints?
No.
I recommend you try other tints
And, like,
then,
give a
and then
review?
you get back to me and just let me know like, hey, this is how I'm feeling this week. This is
That
the tint. I got
documented.
the green tint on this week.
There's research already done on this. I don't
Maybe-
need to recreate the wheel. Look it up. There's like this one
Oh,
is
for
known
real?
to reduce migraine. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like
Maybe you get the
they're
green
actually-
tint and then you make like mad amount of money.
I don't think that's how that works, but you can try. Do it.
Okay, you're talking about you do a lot of stuff. What's that stuff?
Okay, so in a nutshell-ish, label-wise, I'm a psychological anthropologist and a creative. As an anthropologist, I look at South Asian American communities and I look at identity formation and mental health narratives in South Asian American women, typically daughters, typically, and second generation, typically second generation, meaning children of immigrants that are first generation. So that's the bulk of what I do. If I had to give you a thesis of what everything that I do goes back to, it's always mental health in the South Asian American community and or in immigrant communities. So I also am I'm trained as an oil painter, but I also film make and do like digital illustrations among other things. I recently started a podcast, as you may or may not know. And that is it's a story-based podcast. So people around the US, South Asian Americans submit their stories for the podcast. And then I talk with an expert or a professional in the Asian American studies field or in the mental health field. And we discuss thematically things in the piece. And then a lot of the experts will oftentimes willingly share their own stories.
Why do you gravitate towards that specific thing that you're saying that like, you know, it boils down to the mental health in the South Asian community?
I do want to just note South Asian American, because South Asian diasporas are so
Okay.
different everywhere, and South Asian in South Asia, while I have done some research in Pakistan, is very different, right? Like our experiences and our identities and like the different things that have led us to where we are very different here. So yeah.
So
South
Indian
Asian-
American, Pakistani American, Bengali American.
I do all South Asian American, but I have done like my thesis was on South Asian American.
And your
Muslim.
background is what?
I'm a second generation Pakistani American Muslim.
Born, raised here?
I was born in Pakistan, but I was 3 months when I came here. So identity-wise, I'm second gen,
Got it.
because all my memories are from here. But I was born in Punjab, Pakistan.
Punjab. Good job. Yeah.
you.
So like, why is that so important to you? Why do you gravitate towards that?
I don't know. I think I remember in high school getting really into mental health and as like an abstract thing, not something that I could go into career-wise, I feel like I thought. But it was something I was very passionate about because I would see, not to make it so, not to like boil it down just to this, but our community is very hateful. Like they can be very like our community thrives on like gossiping and competition and these really negative kind of practices that in my, circles, I had seen such negative consequences of those things on people's health. And I think I was very just always interested in that, and just like how I'm a practicing Muslim, so just how my dad and mom, but I'm very close to my dad, so how we would talk about Islam and just like honesty and doing good by people. And so when I went to college, I was involved in a lot of Asian American mental health volunteering and nonprofits and internships, because I realized that South Asian Americans have very similar experiences as East Asian Americans. And so it was this collective that was already happening,
So like Chinese, Japanese, Indonesian people.
Yeah, Korean.
As far as what? Like, what are those experiences?
In terms of family pressures, the concepts of honor, the concepts of filial debt, the concepts of model minority, the way that we discipline our kids, first generation that came here, and then my parents' generation that came here. You guys are all second generation, I'm assuming. Mm-hmm. So like our parents that came here and like how they taught us, because they spent their puberty like and plus maybe a few years, like they formed their identity elsewhere. So when they came here and they're teaching us the way that immigration was set up in this country, it sent a really specific kind of South Asian American that set up a certain type of ideal in our
Which
community.
is what?
So that's where the concept model minority comes from.
Okay.
There were about three, let's boil it down to three waves of immigration of South Asians into this country. I'm dusty right now on what president this was, but in the 60s, let's say, 65 was the second migration. So right after the partition of India, the first migration wave came, and it was post-Cold War or ish Cold War. Like they still wanted to down with the Russians. So like they were bringing in STEM, right? Like scientists and mathematicians and engineers, XYZ, to work on these things in America. So that population was coming in. The second wave that happened in 65 brought in more like that. 85, 89-ish, the third wave was family reunification. So that now brought a lot of the families of the STEM people that weren't as educated and weren't as high in income to America. And that the bulk of that was in the 90s and the early 2000s. So basically what happened was it is fact that our communities are higher in socioeconomic status. They're higher in educational attainment. They're higher in the variety of these things, but that does not account for having an ideal as model minority, which means having the perfect house and having the perfect spouse and having the perfect major so that you can get the perfect job and have the 2.5 children or 5 children. I don't know how many children.
What's it based off though? Like what's model minority based off? What is it comparing it against?
Other minorities.
Okay.
So we are pit against other minorities. And so this concept is so harmful because essentially you are now told that you are the best minority. You came here, pulled yourself up from the bootstraps, and you had opportunities just like everyone else. If you can do it, everyone else can do it. Well, no, because that's not how a lot of, Latin, Hispanic Americans came here. That's not how a lot of African American families came here. They came from a really different background. So to pit us against that is not just harmful for them, but harmful for us, because now we're forcing our kids to have our expectation is now an ideal, which is so harmful. And our kids also have the highest rates of depression and suicide in America, ethnically.
Oh, that's interesting.
So how does that compare against other communities? Like, I think I want to mainly pin it against white and black communities because that's what we mostly see and what we can compare ourselves to based off us growing up around these communities. Why is that harmful or not?
So with Black Americans, again, as you guys probably know the background of...
Well, let's do white because I think that's what we see mostly, and our parents will compare to a lot.
Right. So in our communities, so first of all, you guys probably experienced this growing up too. There was always this cinch of I want to attain whiteness. I want to be white, especially, when it wasn't like this. This is a great time for high schoolers, Muslim and South Asian high schoolers, because it's cool to be of your culture. It's cool to do these different things, right? Now people are doing all this stuff that we were ridiculed for, right? On Eid, I'm off of school and my mom's go in and get flowers from Giant for your chachi. And I'm you want me to go inside giant with these clothes? Like what? Now, like it's not even something. I mean, I'm also older and it doesn't faze me, but I'm just saying like it's a better time. So that us trying to attain whiteness is interesting because as model minority. Oh, let me also preface. It's called model minority myth. It's not a real thing, right? Model minority is something that we have set up that a lot white America has set up too, but we shouldn't want to attain it, and it's not a real thing because there are a lot of low socioeconomic status and educationally low Asian Americans. Okay, this is a good visual. You guys all watch Get Out?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember the scene when right before the bidding, right before you really realize what's happening, they go out and he's with the girlfriend, right? And they're on the patio outside. There's a large group of people, like 6 or 7. Do you remember that scene?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There were, I don't remember the exact number of people. Let's just say there were 7. There was one Asian American man. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And the rest of them were white.
Yeah.
That was very deliberately done by the director, okay? Because Asian Americans, we are notorious for thinking we can traverse certain spaces.
Wait, how Asian was he? Like, what Asian?
He was East Asian American.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
Wait,
really?
Okay.
Because
I didn't see him.
yeah, so
Wait, so why was he there?
he was there because we're under this impression because of socioeconomic, because of education, because of careers that we can almost we can traverse spaces without being affected by racism, quote unquote. Like we can get somewhere, right? Like we can go into circles and not be ridiculed because of our background. We think. So that Asian American man was also there for bidding, right? I don't remember the exact line, but the funny thing is, he said something that was like pretty racist, trying to win over the white people, but then some white guy said something back to him as a joke, which was actually racist to him, but it was like a microaggression, and he laughed at it too. And so
Did I miss this part? Like, you guys remember
Yeah.
this?
Yeah.
it was
I
my
slightly
favorite
remember it,
part because it's related to my studies, and I was like, I knew exactly what he was doing, and I researched it later, and it was very intentional.
Yeah.
And I loved that part because that's the beauty of it. We're told that we are this model minority, so we can go into these spaces. You can get that job. Like, oh my God, like Abdullah, you're so smart, but you're still brown and like you're still XYZ, even if you're in these other spaces. And there are microaggressions that I deal with. I won't speak on your behalf on a daily basis. From people in communities like that, that'll be like, oh, like you're so great. Your English is so great for a South Asian girl, and I'm like, what does that mean? Right? Like, what does that mean?
Wait, like, why would the Chinese guy want to be black?
White. Why would he want?
Oh, he wanted to be white?
He was in the white
He's in
circle.
the white
Yeah.
circle.
Why
He
would
wanted-
anyone to be white. Let's be real.
He wanted the black body. Like
He was there for
That's what I'm saying.
bidding
I feel
as
like
well.
I feel like when it comes to minorities, I feel like East Asians have it. I'm not gonna say easiest, but like the
I
best when it
will.
comes to like racism and things like that, or like wanting to get. Well, I don't know about racism, but like as far as like like with for example, like South Asians, right? They get terrorists and this and that. And they get people want to kick them out of the country, and like with Black America, there's obviously like all the things with police and all that kind of stuff. But then with East Asians, I feel like they're just kind of even Mexicans and Hispanics. They get things about border and this and that. Like, what do the East? I feel like they're
Let's
the
not forget
Yeah.
World
Driving.
War II and Japanese
Well, yeah, I
internment
know.
camps.
But,
At that time, they were the Muslims. They were going through exactly what we are right now.
I also feel like
Yeah,
when I was
definitely.
researching the movie as well, the director kind of made a point that like they're also like in a way that East Asians are also kind of recognized like in that white type category. Like you guys aren't the bad ones either.
No, that model minority, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
isn't South
go ahead.
Asian American. It's Asian Americans.
Right.
So it includes them.
Right.
I'm saying at this time though. I
this
know about
time-
the history and everything like that.
No,
like Jewish
still.
people would be the same thing. It's like
Yeah.
obviously they went through like the worst, right?
Right.
But
Now
it's not
The
bad to
Asian
be.
American masculinity is the most attacked masculinity in the States. They're seen as docile, feminine, unattractive. They go against all our beauty standards, and Asian American men are ridiculed the most for that in terms of masculinity and like machoism and how we like
Interesting.
interpret
That's
that.
an interesting.
And Asian American women, as South Asian American women as well, so I'm including us as well, South and East Asian American women are seen as extremely docile and fetishized. I'm saying that
Yes,
right.
yeah.
And like seen as this exotic thing that's close enough to be held, but like still an other.
Is
So
that bad?
Is that bad?
Like
To be seen as exotic?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's. So when a white person calls me exotic, that's offensive because I'm being othered simultaneously.
Okay.
It's like a backhanded
I
compliment,
thought
right?
exotic sometimes can be just like superior.
No, when people like in like hip hop and stuff,
Like I want a foreign chick. Like, is that bad?
that's offensive as shit. Like, why am I not foreign? I mean, sorry, why am I foreign? Like, I'm an anomaly. Like, I wasn't born here. I was 3 months, but I'm assuming some of y'all were born here. So, like, for someone to come up to you and tell you the soil that you were born on, the language that you speak,
Okay,
the
I see,
nationality that you hold, but you're still foreign because of your skin color and the way you look like, you're being othered.
I guess in the context of like a song like that, I guess there's, for example, like if a hip hop artist is saying that, like they're like, okay, I could get these white or black girls, but I want something foreign, and they are holding it to a higher standard.
That's a fetish, though,
So
right?
yeah, but okay.
Do you know, like I don't want to be seen as attractive because I'm this other thing that like you want to attain. Like that's highly offensive. It's the same.
Do you
concept
see
of,
like privilege in that too, though? Do you feel like we gain things from being like put in this other category, which is also kind of a cool
It's
category?
definitely being seen as like an object still, like a
Yeah.
woman as an
Yes.
object. Like, oh, I want a foreign, like, because you're not giving it any value besides the woman being foreign. But
it's the same. It's the same thing as when I saw you shake your head when I said like, oh, for like a brown girl you have good English. Do you see why that's offensive, right? Same thing,
well,
right?
I guess that's like that sounds like a lack of education, whereas the other one,
Is a lack of education too.
Interesting.
No,
okay.
it's to answer your question. Wait, you said something. I wanted to answer that. I didn't mean to ignore you.
No, it's okay.
No, it was a good
saying,
question.
I was saying, like, do you see how we can
Privilege.
like gain
Privilege.
privilege from it too? Like, because then we end up being like, obviously, not all of us want to be looked in this light, but say you do have that exotic feature that people are looking for, like now you have that upper hand.
I think it's a false sense of privilege, right?
Okay.
Because you're being told you can go somewhere and you can to some extent, but you can't really open up all the doors at all, and you're under the impression that you can.
But
that you
can anybody
attain
except for
whiteness.
white people open up all the doors?
No, of course not.
Right.
And so that's the thing. By giving us this model minority thing, we're being like, oh, we're under the impression that we can go all the spaces that white people can, and we're doing it on the backs of our black and brown brothers and sisters at the same time, simultaneously. It happens all the time in the South Asian American community. Anti-blackness is how we thrive and how we have put our community on a pedestal, like in the States. And that's the sick thing about model minority, that like it happened through white America, but now like our own community members are taking it upon themselves to be like parents will be like, oh, look at us, like we're different. And it's like, no, we
True. Well, speaking about communities, can you talk a little bit about how you grew up and how some of that might have influenced why you took on this field, maybe things that you witnessed and stuff?
Alhamdulillah, like to each their own. What they prioritize is good, but I was really grateful that I had parents that prioritized Islam over like brownness and
Right.
South Asianness. Like I know a lot about Pakistan, like culturally, academically, but I was allowed to choose what I wanted to do culturally. Like they knew that wasn't mandated, and they never pressed that on me. But Islam was something that we talked about more wholeheartedly, and like certain things that they would actually mandate. So because of that, I was attracted to like let's just say when I went to college, to Muslim community. I wanted to be a part of the Muslim American community, but I experienced that. So what you're saying, I think I felt that more in college.
Okay.
Where
being too liberal?
I'm not very conservative, but I'm very, very religious.
Okay.
And so I think that's really hard to grasp for people because they automatically are like, oh, like you're not conservative. So like you're
not wearing a headscarf, you're not.
Yeah, like on purpose, not on purpose, but like I take upon a lot of masculine roles that like were egged on by my dad. Like my dad was like, "You're one of the boys. I don't care." And even that, right, has like a gender implication. But he's coming from a certain background. But he used to like, I'll translate this, but he'd be like, "मैं आपको बेटे की तरह बड़ा कर रहा हूँ," like on purpose. He'd be like, "You're my son. I'm raising you like my son." And of course that has a sexist background, but
From his place.
yeah, from what he's but in his language, what that means is like there's going to be no difference. And so I've been able to, because of my dad, traverse spaces that I wouldn't have otherwise, and I don't feel guilty about it. I think that's the thing, and I think that really bothers people, like me being loud or being opinionated. I've had brown guy friends literally be like, "Dude, you're so great." What did one say? He goes, "You're like." This is a few years ago. He's like, he was talking about how like you're like I'm glad we're friends, but like, you know, I could never like have a wife like you. And I was like, what? A, no one asked. B, that is in a nutshell it. Like I have felt, and this is nothing personal to you guys, just with South Asian American men. That's a personality
thing, though, isn't it?
With South Asian American men, I feel like I make them feel emasculated, and that's what it is. Mm-hmm. And so when I went to, but that's a South Asian thing. With the Muslim thing in college, I felt like no one ever said it to me, but I felt like in certain spaces I shouldn't be there because I wasn't wearing hijab, because I wasn't conservative, and so then I eased away from the Muslim American community in college, which sucks, right? Because I feel like people want to have a certain community. But I just didn't speak to Muslim or brown people so much in college versus grad school when I found a more tolerant community that was open-minded.
Was there any part of your experiences that then, like a part of your college experiences and all these things where you actually felt like that was happening, that then kind of made you more passionate or motivated to do the work that you're doing?
I think the bulk of what made me do what I'm doing is I was into mental health, and then there's a lot of reasons why South Asian Americans have high rates of mental health issues, but one of them, which was most, I guess, attributed to my own experience, is like educational attainment. Like school was really big in my family, and just like being the best, like enough, like anything less than perfect was not acceptable, and so I think that caused a lot of anxiety and depression in me during college.
Okay.
And I was already in the mental health field at that time. But that was the true test, right? Because here I am advocating for a community, advocating for work, about ending stigma and breaking taboos and sharing stories. But I still cringed at my, like, sharing my own truth at the time, you know?
Mm-hmm. Is that a generation thing, though? Because when it's like a second generation, a lot of these parents are coming over and they're working odd jobs, and they're doing hard work, doing taxis and owning like a Dunkin' Donuts, 7-Eleven, gas stations. And then they're like, okay, I don't want you to live this life, so you go be a doctor, engineer, whatever. But then after that, does that still continue? Is it a brown thing, or is it like that like with immigrants in general? Is that what sort of that mentality is?
With a lot of immigrant communities, yeah, that they want you to have a stable job that is not lucrative, that'll give you money. They don't want, that's why creative fields freak them out, right? Because they want you to have a job that as soon as you graduate, that degree will point blank be able to bring income
financially
in. Yeah, it's non-lucrative. You you want to set your kid up in that way. So yeah, all parents are like that, but in the Asian American communities, we bring in the concept of sacrifice and honor. That is like the epitome of like our parents. And so that makes everything 10 times worse. I was having a discussion with someone about this the other day. They were like, oh, what's wrong with like thinking that you owe your parents? And I'm like, it's different giving your parents something back out of love, you know, after graduating, after, you know, I don't know, having however many children they want.
And feeling like you have to.
Yeah, and feeling like you owe us. Okay. Because whether or not they say it, it is a very, very widely understood phenomena in the Desi community that, like, we did this for you. We did this for you. We don't have friends here for you. We left our country for you. And it's like,
but
sure,
is it facts though?
Were you born even at the time when they left? Like, is that a fact? Do you know what I mean? Like it's different doing, again, something out of love and doing it in this way that you owe your parents, which is toxic and ends up making people feel less than and depressed and suicidal and anxiety ridden.
Okay, so through the mental health field, how do you even combat this?
So, good question. Yeah. I combat this by bringing stories. So I did research.
Okay, so through your art, you're saying?
Through art, but so my academic work, I do ethnographic work that is interview based. So I would interview women and share stories. At that time, there's a way of interviewing that, like, I'm not going to take credit for it. Like, anthropologically, like, there's just certain steps that you can take in interviews that, and you know, setting a consensual, like, environment where people will share their story, you know, even if in other settings they wouldn't. They will share intimate things. And so my thesis was on, they're all confidential, but it was on interviewing women and creating, at that time I did my thesis through a solo art gallery, so I painted their narratives and like had quotes projected, reeling through like different quotes of different women. So just sharing truths. So the way I combat this is literally just bringing to light things that are actually happening in our community, like the podcast, right? Like those stories are all happening. We're just not
What's the
talking about
podcast
it.
called, by the way?
Desi Diaspora.
Okay.
And so basically we're just silent. That's the thesis of this all. We're silent about all these things that are taboo in our community, which is like 75% of the topics in the world we just can't talk about, right? Like divorce and infertility and unorthodox sexuality and I don't know, like femininity. Like there's all these things that you're not supposed to talk about.
So you're taking, like, academically, you're taking your research in this field and then translating it through your art. Is that sort of the basis of it?
Yeah, and
Okay. And that's how you're I guess
telling stories.
translating it to the communities. How do you know that they're seeing this? Like, how is it getting to the people it needs to get to? Because we'll see it,
Right.
but are Desi parents going to see it?
So
and how?
a lot of I've done paintings and like I like doing conversational, like things that start conversations, right? So the bulk of the work is literally just like throwing it out there. We don't talk about this, blank. And I think that I can only do so much in terms of encouraging people, for example, to come to my solo art gallery, like bring your parents, like things like that, which I think is great and like things that I do. But open communication is one of the things I oftentimes will tie it back to, like just honesty. And of course that, you know, things like safety and things like that should be considered. Obviously, not everyone can be honest and straightforward with certain things in terms of their own safety and like life situation. But I think that to some extent, breaking barriers intergenerationally means just having conversations that we just don't have with our parents.
Are there other forms of expression that you want to pursue in similar fashion?
That I haven't already?
Yeah, that you haven't already.
You have your paintings.
My
You have a
paintings.
film, right?
I have film, yeah. I have more that for academic films that I have not put on there on my website necessarily. And then I do illustrations and my podcast. I just humble started. I think that for a long time I was looking for a consistent way to marry my arts to my anthropological work, because the paintings were great and I had that exhibition for my thesis my senior year of undergrad, XYZ, but that it felt like it was like a cut and dry, like it was like things happening, like separate things happening, if that makes sense. So I wanted a continuous way, and the podcast is how I came to the realization that I could share stories continuously and bring on conversation and keep creating conversations, right? Even if 5 of the stories are the exact same story, just goes to show how many people are having those experiences and we're not talking about it.
Yeah.
I guess something that I would like to delve in more, like continuing to make different kinds of films. I do a lot of POV films, so maybe different narrative films, but those are sticky, right? Confidentiality wise, and people want to share their stories, but sometimes it's hard to be vulnerable and actually have your identity out there. Like that's not an easy task.
If there was like a drama that like, I feel like that would be so effective.
A drama.
Like a Desi drama?
There's
Yeah.
a drama.
I
and,
heard
like,
that there is
tackling
one
it.
out right now that's like talking about taboo issues. I don't know what it's called, but it's
Because I feel like that's be so effective.
No, but
especially.
to be honest,
that's how it would get to them.
I've had I don't watch Desi dramas, so I don't know any of the names, but I've like my cousins and my parents, like when I've walked in and like just in one scene, and like I've seen that Desi dramas these days are really trying to tackle a lot of taboo issues. Even like the one about Kandil Baloch, my cousin was telling me, he was like, dude, you have to watch this. And like a cool way, he set it up that he watches it with his parents. So they binge watch together, which is great because then it instigates conversation, right?
Definitely.
And I think my mom was watching, or someone, or actually maybe it was an Indian movie. Someone was telling me there was about a transsexual boy and like this issues he had to go through in society. I don't know what movie it was, but so they're slowly and surely trying.
They recently had the Aurat March, like all in
In
Pakistan.
Pakistan, they did.
Which
Which
is
is
pretty cool.
woman.
Yeah,
in
woman.
Urdu.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So there's advantages and disadvantages from coming in any community. And so what is it that we can learn from other communities, whether it be something negative or positive that they went through, that we should be like, hey, we could really use this?
I think solidarity.
Okay.
Because our community, as are other communities, a lot of South American communities are also based on the tenet of gossiping. But I think that like solidarity, like in the Black community, for example, it's happening slowly and surely. I won't say it's not happening in the Desi American community, in the second generation Desi American community, but I think the concept of just being tolerant and open-minded, not to take the easy way out, but I want to quote, like, I went to this, so I'm practicing Muslim, I went to this Friday prayer, so I organized the 10th annual Muslim Mental Health Conference, and it was last weekend, and I don't know if you guys remember Native Dean.
Yeah.
So Joshua Salam, who was one of the head guys, if I remember correctly, alhamdulillah, came for the Friday prayer, and he is the one who led the khutbah. And like that was literally what his khutbah was on. His khutbah was on how like Christian communities and Nation of Islam communities are so tight knit and supporting of each other. Okay. And I remember one of my favorite parts of the khutbah was he's like, I don't know a single Muslim that has converted out of Islam because of Deen. He's like, I don't know a single one, but I know several that have turned away from Islam because of the community and their
and everything like that.
Pressure, gossiping, competition, hateful remarks, intolerance, right? And so like he it's funny he said this because guys don't face this as much as girls, but he was like, you know, rather than the single time, like the first step you take into the masjid and being like, I can see this part, or like you shouldn't be wearing this. Rather than that, why don't we just like be nice and say salam and like ask about people, right? Like how revolutionary is that? So I think just like solidarity, like being tolerant, like I think I'm conflating two communities right now. So I don't know if right now we're talking about the South Asian American community or the Muslim South Asian American community, but I think just in general, like knowing that people have different stories and that it's not to turn this into a preaching thing, but like even Islam says, like everyone knows this, but we don't love to practice it. Like it is not up to you to judge, right? So like hear people's stories. You can have your opinions, but it's not your place to tell people what is right or what they shouldn't be doing.
Is it always a bad thing to grow up how, you know, and this isn't necessarily for South Asians always, but like just, you know how some people are like, you know what, I had a strict father, or like, you know, I went through all these things and I went through bullying and this and that, but it made me who I am. Is it always a negative thing then if you turned out to be this great person because of those experiences?
I think it depends. Obviously, we're human and there's never going to be a perfect life. It's not like we can get rid of these things and be like, oh, I didn't go through anything. So you're always going to go through something, but I think in terms of like, if our children are facing these things to such a degree and we're shaming them and we have such unhealthy relationships with our parents, you'll still live. You'll still get to maybe where you're going. Sometimes you don't, you know? Sometimes someone might be sexually abused and their community tells them you're not supposed to talk about it because if you talk about it, you're in the wrong too. I don't know if I want to curse on this, like how messed up is that, right? So there are certain experiences that we could go through that even if we did go through it, we'll be fine. But there are certain people...
But still wrong.
But there are certain experiences that are so traumatizing that some people might not have been able to. Yeah. And even if it's there's obviously there's layers to this, right? So even if we're saying that bottom layer where they have gone through such traumatic events they weren't allowed to talk about it, let's just say it's minute, which I don't think it necessarily is at all. How wonderful of a life could have been if they could have been honest, if they could have gotten help for something and could have seen a professional, but they weren't allowed to because, you're supposed to keep, you know, your bad laundry or dirty laundry at home. Like you don't talk about things. Like, lo kya kahenge? What will people say? Right. So to some extent, we're all going to go through something. There's obviously growth moments and there's, you know, certain identity, you know, epiphanies you have. Like I went through a phase where I just realized I'm so happy to be who I am. It doesn't faze me what other people say. And alhamdulillah, I'm so happy to be at that point at 24. And I'm not special by any means. A lot of people get to that point, but I don't think a lot of people get to that point right now. And I think that that's so harmful because there's such great people with great pursuits and like we bring them down to such extents that like just imagine where they could be now if they hadn't had to go through that.
I don't know if like you feel like you've covered this, but within your research, do you feel like there's specific things that South Asian women like experience that they end up having depression and mental health issues? Like, do you know of more specific issues that are common amongst them?
Yeah. So the theme that tied all the so to answer your question, no. And I thought that I would find a theme. I thought there would be one reason. But like the beauty and the scary part of this whole thing is everyone had almost very different things, but it all came back to silence. And that's why my thesis was on it's called The Violence of Silencing. Like there was a subtitle. But it's so violent because all the issues, there was, one woman talking about, for example, being of a biracial identity and like the racism she had to deal with in her own community because she was half black. So there's one woman that talked about the maintenance of her Muslim identity. So that was the bulk of my research, the maintenance of her religious identity while practicing unorthodox femininity and sexuality within her culture. Other people, something that comes up a lot is the conflation of culture and religion, but not knowing where that line lies.
Right.
And so I think that we all have different, not that there aren't people with the same issues, there of course there are, but there's so many things going on in our community that are all silenced that you just don't talk about, and you're not allowed to work through, you're not allowed to, or encouraged to see, therapists. And I've seen different layers of this. Some people don't acknowledge psychology or mental health at all. Some people that do, but they say, oh, that's not our problem. Like, of course people should do it, but like when you have a problem in your own home, it's like, no, but it's not that bad that I should go see a therapist, but like other people should, for sure. They'll advocate for it, but they don't see it as their own burden. Like we're above that. So there's layers to it, but I think it all comes back to silencing and like not being allowed to talk about your things.
Where can people find you and everything that you're doing?
I think Ghonva.com is my website. You can find...
That's just you?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So Ghonva.com, Ghonva.com, and that has the bulk of my stuff. It doesn't have my podcast, but the podcast you can find on Instagram, which is at Desi Diaspora.
Tell us about your name real quick, because I know you wanted to.
Oh, yeah. My mom was an Arabic professor in Pakistan and wanted to name you something meaningful and different. And so the 88th name from the 99 names of God is Al-Ghani. So my name is Ghonwa. It's Ghanwa. I say Ghonva because people can't say the ghain. But it means the self-sufficient, the one who is free of need. And
that's
look at that.
And so it's shaped my identity a lot, alhamdulillah. So.
Listen, you're a dope person. I love what you're doing.
Thank
Please
you.
keep it up. And definitely, keep us posted. And everybody that's about to follow you, let us know, in whatever ways that we can come and see your stuff and whatever, if you're in the area. We have one last question that we always ask at the end of each podcast, and Amber will ask that.
If you could describe yourself as any flavor, what would it be and why?
That's so hard. God. I will say I am sesame ice cream because I just tried it this past weekend and it was the
Sesame?
Yeah,
Sesame.
it was at
Sesame ice cream.
This place called Thai Chef in DuPont in DC, and it was really
so bougie. That was so bougie. Keep
Did
going.
they actually put sesames on the ice cream, or does it taste like sesame?
I think they might have like grinded them in. There was a little bit in it, but it tastes like sesame. But it was I'm not big on sweets. Like I just don't have a sweet tooth. I know I'm weird.
Okay.
So it was like savory, but also enough sweet. Like it came under dessert, but it was like different. Like it was like not really a dessert, but it still was like enjoyable. And I think that's a pretty good depiction of me. Like I'm not what I seem, but like I'm still enjoyable. Like
you're not
talk
sweet
to me.
But you're no. I'm asking. No,
We're asking.
That was a question. That was a question.
No, in the sweet is the foundation or the baseline of all ice creams, right?
Oh,
so it may
from, like, a
not
sweet
be
place.
like they're all sweet. Like all ice creams are sweet. So like maybe I'm not like the typical brown girl, but like I'm okay. Like get to know me, and I'm not like a gross ice cream. I'm a good ice cream. I'm just not like the same, but that doesn't make me bad.
I'm okay.
I still don't know what that means.
No,
but
I understood it.
Amber gets me. Okay.
Yeah,
Sorry.
No, I get it. Because you're saying, you're still enjoyable, just different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Thank you so much for coming on and speaking about this. Please go check out her podcast. One more time, what's it called?
Desi Diaspora.
Okay. And we'll link that in the description. Ghonva, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
And for everybody listening, it's been another week, another flavor, a little less stranger. We'll talk to you next time.